Hi everyone. Wait, I don't think we're going. Remember at the end last time I was like, wait, this is slow. It's loading slowly. Last time I don't remember it loading this. Okay. Hey, I think we're live. I can't tell if we're live or not. Um, Hi everyone. This is Nathalie Pt II from the Adirondack Center for Writing. How are you? This is our second spontaneous storytelling event. We had so much fun last time that people asked us to do it again. And I have to tell you, I was so flattered and thankful that you liked my stories and you want to do this again. What I have to tell you is this is a virtual telethon storytelling event. And what we're going to do is we're going to raise some money for Adirondack Center for Writing if you're able. We know that this is a tough time financially for a lot of people. So if you're not able to, please, no pressure, just enjoy and laugh, most likely at my expense. But if you are able to give, we have a modest goal of $1,200. And look, we're really technical this time. We have a sign you can give there and just read it, or you could call 518-354-1261, and who will answer the phone? Bailey. I'm going to turn. Don't get seasick when it's happening. And there she is. Hi, she's out there. Last time the phone rang off the hook. In fact, so many people called. She was on the phone the whole time. Oh, shit, this is backwards. This is so I can't do it. There. Okay. So if you call and you get the voicemail, just please leave a message and she will call you right back. We don't have multiple lines, which would be really fun if we did. But anyway, she will call you right back and keep trying. And that's it. Why are we doing this? Because we all need a laugh, right? It's been very stressful. The weather changing has been helpful. But nevertheless, so this is just all for you to have a good time. Relax, kick back, have a glass of wine if you want, and you give me the prompts. So I can do this. I can tell a story based on any prompt that you give me in real time. And what is a prompt? Any word you want. You can do it as a theme, like, I don't know, parenting fail, or you could do it as a word, like class. And you comment on the prompt right there, and we'll do that. Or you could text at that same number, and Bailey will tell me what the number is. In joining me tonight, in addition to Bailey, is also my family. Lucy is going to tell me all the things. She's my daughter. Come over here. That's Lucy. Hey. She's going to tell me what the prompts are because it's hard for me to read it. And then I also have my husband, Jothel, who also made this, oh my God, this great sign for me. So thank you. And Simon, he's my son, and he is going to communicate with Bailey. All right, she's already on the phone. This is crazy. All right, so there were so many prompts last time that we didn't have time to get to them. So while we're waiting for people to post prompts, and go ahead, you can start posting them right now and we'll read them. But I've asked Lucy to take all the prompts that I didn't have a time last time to get to, and she's going to choose the prompt for the next one. Hey, Kelly Wright, she noticed the sign game. Yes, I know. That's all Joe Thel, and it was great. Okay, Lucy, choose a prompt from last time that I didn't have time to do, and you can tell me. Do you want to be on screen? Not on screen? Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Pearls.
Pearls. Yes, I have a pearl ring story, and that's close enough. Okay, so I used to date this guy named Jean-Paul for a long time, sort of college and after college. And one time he took me to Lake Michigan for the weekend, which was great. We had never done anything like that before. And we're hiking up to this overlook to look on the lake, right? And you know when you're hiking and you get a song in your head and it's the worst thing that could ever happen, because there's something about the rhythm of hiking that when you get a song in your head, I mean, it's like on loop, you can't get it out of your head, right? So on this particular hike, the song that was in my head was There Was an Old Lady Who Swallowed a Fly. But instead of it just being in my head, I was singing it out loud, and I was 100% going for it, right? So I was like, She swallowed the spider to catch the fly, but I don't know why she swallowed the fly. Perhaps she'll die. And I couldn't stop. It was like on loop. I kept saying it, and I was just belting this out the whole. Meanwhile, Jean Paul is walking ahead, and he's just completely lost in his own thoughts and not paying any attention or commenting on my singing at all. Because as it turns out, I did not know, obviously, but when we got to the top, he planned to ask me to marry him. So we're in very different headspaces. He's contemplating a major life choice, and I'm like, I don't know what. Completely not vibing on the same vibe at all. So we get to the top, and as far as I'm concerned, like the open scenery is just more space for me to sing. And he has this whole speech planned out. He's like, so he's trying to get my attention, and he for real is like, Slee, if you could just focus, nice singing, but I just need to. And so I was like, all right. And he's talking, and it was actually this really beautiful metaphor about accepting love, and the grain, a pearl is formed because he gave me a pearl ring, the prompt. When a grain of sand goes in the oyster, I don't know, the shellfish, and it was this beautiful metaphor, but I was not listening. I didn't know what he was getting to. And he told me later that the whole time he could see my foot just tapping to the tune of, I don't know why she swallowed the flies. Even he knew I wasn't paying attention. So when he finally dropped to one knee and asked me to marry him, as far as I was concerned, this was out of the clear blue sky, like no warning whatsoever. And in the silence that followed, the big question, I tooted so who does that? Oh my God. Oh my God. It was so bad. So took me years to be willing to tell that story, I have to say. I would tell the singing story, but not the tooting story, because that's pretty bad. And I'm convinced I'm the only human that has ever done that before. So if that's ever happened to you, please post that. But don't be all like, oh, I fell once and, I was so surprised, because that's adorable. I want tooting stories. I want vomiting stories. I want belching stories. Like, did anyone else toot after they were asked, they were proposed to? All right, that is my pro ring story. What other stories we got? First day of school, dumping drinks, and puberty. Okay, dumping drinks. Okay, I will do that one. So anyone who saw the last episode, the first one we did, knows that I was a terrible waitress, like epically terrible. And one time I spilled 2 full glasses of soda on an old lady's head. You cannot imagine how much liquid is in a glass until you see it just pouring down this lady's head, right? And she was awful about it, by the way, not at all understanding. And she even gave me the dry cleaning bill for her blouse. Like, come on. And they were really mean to me. And they even said, like, when I came back to the table, they're like, you have a lot of nerve to come back here. As if there was an option I was unaware of. They were willing to get their food out of the kitchen because it was the only way. So anyway, it was awful. And I see that my sister Gina posted this. So I am going to tell this story in a way that I can include her in this, because she was part of the story. So I am the youngest of 6 girls. I know, probably me crazy and so lovable. But they live all over the world. And so we don't see each other a lot. And this was a summer job during college. So I happened to be home, and I walk in the house, and there's like 4 of my sisters there, which is a pretty big showing, actually. I walk in, and I can see that they had all been drinking a couple glasses of wine, and they were just talking and stuff. And I walk in, and I just burst out sobbing, right? I mean, this was a very bad day. And I'm standing there crying my eyes out. And then one of my sisters, was probably Magda, like came up and she's like, oh, honey. And she gave me a hug. And then one by one, all the other sisters, they all came up and they were giving me this huge hug, which had never happened to me before. Like you'd think growing up in a house full of women that we would like hug a lot or something, but group hugs was not something that had ever happened to me. And even though I was hysterical, there was like this little part of my brain that was really loving it. And I was like really just leaning in. But I couldn't even speak. I was sobbing so much. And they're like, what happened? And I was like, oh, a woman was mean to me. And they're like, oh, how dare she? How? And like, again, little part of my brain, I'm like, oh, they're outraged on my behalf. And I was like, they're like, why did she yell at you? And I was like, I spilled a drink. And again, they're like, oh, well, anyone could do that. That's no big deal. And I was like, on her head. Like, I don't know. I was still really enjoying the cuddle. I was still kind of, but I did notice a slight pulling back. The cuddle. I was like leaning away. But since I don't know any better, then I blurted out 2 glasses of soda on her head. And then Magda, she just started laughing. Like I just hear this, and then they all start laughing. And Gina's like, on purpose? Like, I guess it did sound intentional when there's 2 classes. And so they spent the rest of the night making fun of me. And that was my dropping things. Okay. First day of school. All right. I'll do that one. That's next. First day of school. I was the youngest of 6 girls. Oh, this is perfect. It matches. I was the youngest of 6 girls, and all my sisters were very good students and very well behaved. So the first day of school for me was always a breeze. I would go in and they would look at the roster and they would be like, oh, are you our Gina Costa's little sister? And I'd be like, yes. I'm like, oh, I loved her. We're going to have such a good year. And so my whole, it was easy. My teachers always liked me instantly through no effort of my own whatsoever. And then the first day of high school, same thing. English class. Oh, you Marta Costa's little sister? Are you Jackie Costa's little sister? And then I get to gym class, and the gym teacher, Miss Wassman, was like, Costa, are you Lisa Costa's little sister? And I was like, yes, I am. And then her face screwed up in this angry red blob. And she just goes, I hope you don't give me the trouble she did. And I was like, well, I don't suppose I would. So I had never had that experience before, to have a teacher just instantly not like me. And she hated me. Nothing I could do all year long would change her mind. And I would do everything. Like I would be like very like, doing my jumping jacks and, just trying so hard to change her mind. And nothing worked. Meanwhile, this whole time, you need to know I was wearing a gym uniform. Anyone who's younger than like 45 does not know. I just can't. They were repulsive. They were zip up polyester one piece, like onesies, that you would just stand in such a way so that like the least amount of fabrics touched your skin. Anyway, one time she was teaching us the volleyball, and the hitting in this way, hitting the volleyball, not this way, but this way, right? So she was like, okay, you hit it, and then you have to follow through the arms, right? She's like, Costa, show, exhibit this. So I'm there in front of the whole class, and I'm all like trying to make her like me. I was like, okay. And so she throws the ball, and I hit it, and I have my arms up, and the ball shoots exactly where it's supposed to go. And then I hear this growl. And Miss Wassman's like, Costa, I said to keep your arms up. And I was like, okay, Miss Wassman. Meanwhile, I was like, my arms were off, but like whatever. And so she's like, do it again. So she throws it, and I hit it, and I really exaggerate like how high up my arms are up. And then she seemed satisfied. So, obviously I put my arms back down, right? She like whips around, and she comes up, and she takes both my arms in one hand, and she lifts me up, and I'm literally dang, I'm like, Miss Wassman, I'm not touching the ground, Miss Wassman. And she's like, I told you I'm not. And then she just like releases me. I'm just standing there. And then she walks away and I'm still standing there and I don't know what to do. And like time passes, like enough time. Like she's working with somebody else and other classmates are sort of awkwardly playing around me and I'm just standing in the middle of the gym, like I don't know what to do. So like eventually I put my arms down and she's like, that's it, go to the principal's office. Hey, I had never been to the principal's office before, so that's that story. Years later, by the way, I told Joe Thill, my husband, that story, and he interrupted because I was like, yeah, my gym teacher, Miss Wassman, was really mean to me. And he interrupted and he was like, well, obviously you called her Miss Assman. No, that occurred to me. All right, what else do we have? Frog, worst book ever. Listening. Okay. Worst book ever. Instead, I'm going to do the worst writing workshop idea ever because that's the first thing that came to mind. And I am positive that the person who pitched this to me is not on this. I really hope. But so I do a prison writing program at Adirondack Center for Writing. We do a prison writing program, a creative prison writing program. And at one point, I had sort of this call, like, if you'd like to teach a class in this men's federal prison, what would that class be? And this literally the worst idea I have ever heard. So just y'all think for a minute what the worst, most useless class for a federal men's prison writing workshop, what that topic would be. What would it, normally we do poetry or memoir or fiction. This guy pitched a travel writing. They're not going anywhere. And it's like due maximum on $10 a day. It was the worst idea ever. Okay. Frog. High school biology class. Yeah, I don't know if you know this story, Lucy. So when I was in biology class, my son is now in AP biology class, so this wouldn't have happened to him. But we were dissecting frogs, right? Which is intense. And when I feel a lot of things, like a lot of emotions, I tend to express that by getting kind of giggly. Maybe the technical term might be hysterical. I'm not sure what that might be. But so I was dissecting this frog, and my frog had like entered rigor mortis, like in full leap, like frog leap, one leg extended. And nobody else is at, everybody else was like full capitulation, and mine was like, I think it's your window. So that was kind of funny, but it was like very quiet, very intense. And the whole time I'm thinking like, you know, I'm kind of freaked out a little bit. And turns out I had no idea, but I had the hiccups. And I get up at one point to, I don't know, sharpen my scalpel. And I guess I hiccuped at that time. And the next thing I know is Miss Bukowski comes running at me going, ah! And so I start screaming. And it turns out in fight or flight situations, I am 100% flight. But instead of like running out the door or across the room or something, I chose, like, I was standing next to this wall and it was a partition wall. So it didn't go all the way to the ceiling. There was a space. Screaming, leapt onto the wall and tried to scale the wall on my legs, like trying to get purchase on it. And then she's like, oh my God. But she's still coming at me. And so she's like, I'm so sorry. I was trying to scare the hiccups out of you. But like my brain was just registering that she was still coming. So I'm still screaming. This is in the middle of biology class. Or otherwise perfectly silent biology class. And I'm like, ah! So I finally figured out what's happening. And so I had to sort of like slowly. The worst part about that whole experience was that I had to get from the wall back to my desk, like casually. I just kind of like, yeah, I'll just get back to my desk. So that is my frog story. All right, I see blood and diamonds. Oh, how weird. Blood diamonds. Diamonds lady. I just told a pearl story. I feel like those are all the gems I got. So I'll tell a blood story. Blood. What do I have for blood? Oh, Lucy wanted me to tell this story last time, and I didn't, and it works. So I'm going to tell it this time. Catholic Church. You need to know a couple of things in case I'm talking to some heathens out there. The Easter Mass is different than all the other masses because the whole congregation acts out the Passion of Christ, right? Which is the crucifixion and the ascension of Jesus. So what happens is usually the audience plays the crowd, and our line is always just crucify him, which is a small role, but it's meaty. And then like an usher plays the narrator, and then appropriately the priest usually plays the role of Jesus, right? Another thing you need to know about the Catholic Church is that there's the priest, but then there's always these like hangers-on priests whose presence no one ever explains. Like no one knows them. No one's ever met them. There's no bio. They don't introduce them. They're just there one day and not another day, which is always weird. And so but sometimes they're like backup dancers, kind of, because they do all the motions of the regular priest, but they wear like different color robes and stuff. And occasionally the priest will throw them a bone, like they'll sing the benediction, the bread of bread is bread part. That's a John Mulaney joke, but the singing part. And that's all they'll say. So it's a little weird, like the total stranger just suddenly sings a line and then off he goes. So at this Mass, the priest allowed this random other priest guy that no one knew to say the lines of Jesus, which was very nice of him. But so we're all like, crucify him. And then the usher's all like, and then the priest opens his mouth. He is the strongest Romanian, like specifically Transylvanian accent I have ever heard. Like it's ridiculous. Like he totally was like, take this blood. And this is not sacrilegious because it's 100% happened. And so, like, the thing is, like, was he from Transylvania? Or it could have also just, I wasn't sure if it was maybe his artistic interpretation of how Jesus should, like he wanted to spice up the role or something. So there's no way of knowing. And you have no idea how many times Jesus counts in the middle of the Passion. He's always like, Peter, by the stroke of 12, you will accuse me, deny me 3 times. So I was a complete mess. I'm laughing so hard because it's hysterical. And my husband's like really embarrassed of me, and he keeps elbowing me. He's like, shh, think of something sad. Think of something sad. So I'm like looking around at the rest of the audience, and nobody else is laughing. Sometimes I don't understand people. That shows like a level of self-restraint that I am uncomfortable with. Okay, what do we have? Tech issues. Oh, you know what story I have to tell? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
This just happened recently. This is a COVID story. Y'all. This just happened to me not long ago. So I was on a conference call. Can we all just agree that conference calls are the worst? I hate them, and I have no patience for them. So I'm on this conference call. There's like 10 people. This actually has potentially to be very, very embarrassing because I don't know. It might have been on that conference call. I hate him. So I'm sitting there and I'm just pacing back and forth. I'm like, oh my God. And Joe, my husband, is sitting there on the computer, and he's got headphones in so that he can listen to his thing. And I'm in such a bad mood that every time I walk by him, I just click the headphones out of his ear, and he just sighs and he just puts them back in. And then I walk by and I do it again. And there's a little window into our marriage. And sometimes I'll just walk by and I'll just close his laptop on him and I'll keep going. And every once in a while he'll get frustrated enough and I'll just point to the phone and be like, yeah, sorry, just shh, and I just kept doing it like over and over again. And I would just kind of do these laps around the house. And I don't know, I guess time 14 was the last straw for Joe Thill, because I'm walking through the kitchen and suddenly he comes running up behind me And you all know at this point what my reaction is. I suddenly just screams on a conference call. And they didn't know what had happened to me. They don't even know me. These are work people. So I'm like, and everyone, like Lucy goes like this, and Joe's like, and we're all like, and so I get back out. It was just dead silence. And then I hear this one little voice that just went, what just happened? Like, so then I kind of made up this story. I didn't know. I was like, oh, sorry. My husband jumped out of a closet. I don't. Could you imagine being at a conference call and then hearing someone scream? I mean, I could have fallen off the roof. I mean, I could have been bludgeoned to death. Like, they don't know what the deal is. Oh, so that's my tech issue story. All right, so we have lobster. Okay. Lobster. Oh, okay. This one's hard to tell fast. So my dad, if you heard the last one, so my dad is Italian off the boat, and he had a ridiculously strong Italian accent, like ridiculous. And he had this deep guttural voice, too. It was deep, like Henry Kissinger deep. And he he was just a very different kind of guy, right? So some kids' fathers could hang out with the kids or joke around with them, and he did not. He did not interact. He did not talk to my friends or anyone, really anyone. He wasn't that kind of dad. He was the doctor in town, and no one ever understood what was wrong with him because his accent was so strong. But he just was not a very social person. And there was this diner in our town, which was amazing. Everyone went there, and you would go for breakfast with 3 people, and then more people would show up, and more, and you're adding tables, and like we would stay so long that we would like order lunch. It was really wonderful. My dad loved going to the diner too. Charlie's, it was called. But luckily he went at off times when there was no chance of ever seeing other people at the same time as my dad. So it was fine. You know, as a teenager, you don't usually want to be seen with your parents, but this was like extra special. So one time I walk in, it was like 7 a.m. And the first thing, I open the door, and the first people I see is Chris Orr, the cutest boy in class, in the whole school, really, and Christine Geit, the meanest girl in school. And they were having breakfast together, which didn't make any sense. It was 7 a.m. And also I didn't know they knew each other. And so I was like, oh. So I walk by, and I'm just like, okay, this is going to be awkward. But as I go to the back, I realized that my dad had stopped at the door to get a newspaper. So it didn't look like we came in together. So I totally like dodged that bullet, right? So I just make sure that we have this really long breakfast, and we take forever so that they're gone by the time we walk back through. But they're still there when we walk through. But having learned the lesson from the first time, I just walk really fast so that it didn't seem like we were together. Because obviously eating breakfast alone at 7 a.m. is preferable than eating breakfast with my dad when I was 16, 15. So anyway, I get to the door, and I'm like, yeah, I made it. See, turn around. And the impossible was happening. My father, who did not speak to anyone, had leaned over Chris and Kirsten's table and just stuck his hand right in the middle of the table, and he had his face right up next to Chris Orr, and he was saying something like that, and then he bursts out laughing and then walks away. And then I see Chris and Kirsten look at each other, and they both go. And then they look over at me and are like, yeah. And I'm like, what did he say? So we get in the car, and I couldn't just ask my dad. He wasn't that kind of guy. So, but finally I just plucked up the courage. I'm like, Dad, like, so what did you say to Chris Orr over there? And he was like, oh, that was Chris Orr? I thought it was Bill Orr. Bill Orr was Chris's significantly older brother, so old that he lived alone in his own apartment. And he starts laughing. He's like, oh. And I'm like, Dad, what did you say to Chris? And he's like, oh, I asked him if he got the lobster off his nose. I was like, wait, What? Turns out Bill Orr was cooking live lobster for the first time in his life, and somehow he got a lobster attached to his nose. And of the many options that Bill had open to him, calling animal control, for example, he chose instead to call his doctor. He called my dad, like, oh, doc, so turns out Chris Orr didn't know the story. And as far as he knows, a complete stranger with an outrageous accent, like, put his hand on the table, leaned in close, and said, "Did you get the lobster off your nose?" That's my lobster story. All right. What do we have? Tomato, miscommunications, and I see secrets. Okay, tomato. Oh my God, it's 7:30 already. It's 7:30. Okay, first of all, this is a telethon. If you can give, please do. There's our thing there. I can tell, should I tell another story? Should I go on? One more story? Two more stories? Okay, I'm gonna tell two more stories. Okay. Tomato. Yeah, so this is another waitressing story. So I was a bad waitress. Okay. I think we've established. And this was when I was working banquets at like the Hyatt. I think it was the Hyatt. And the thing about banquet waitressing is that it's supposed to be like fine dining, right? But it's not. I mean, like we wear tuxedos and there's several courses and there's like chocolate covered strawberries, the whole deal. But I mean, none of us know what we're doing. Our tuxedos are full of stains. We're 24. We're like apparently have slight balance problems. And so it's just kind of a mess. And there's hundreds of people. It like could be a wedding with like 300 people. So it's this mad rush to like, you know, in this fine dining sort of way, just like place the food, but you have to do it really fast because there's hundreds of people and they have to be served at the same time. So I had the salad. I had a salad in each plate, hand. And the plates were perfectly flat, which I feel like is obviously everything that happened later. I think we could all place the blame at the hand of the man who chose a flat plate because this is just stupid. So anyway, I'm going quickly and I'm serving the salad and I move quickly and the salad slides off the plate, right? And the lettuce actually just falls down like in a clump. And the salad dressing must have like weighed it down. But there's a slice of tomato, this like beefsteak tomato, that considering how heavy it was really shocking. It kind of like hit an air current. It just like soared like a frisbee, and it just went and it landed on the side of an elderly gentleman's face, and then just slowly slipped off. So I said, "You ordered the tossed salad?" Right? Funny, witty. Who wouldn't be charmed by that? This guy was not. I don't know. So then I had to really switch gears real fast and be all like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." I guess looking back, hindsight 2020, I should have said that first. But so then I had the awkward moment where I didn't know if I should wipe the seeds off like of his face or if I should let him do that. And I'm not really sure what the etiquette is. That was awful. Okay, this will be the last. Oh, I'm thanking donors. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, donors, for contributing. We have Patricia Monroe. Oh, Patty, hi. Charlie Watts, hi. Or is that Wattis? I'm so sorry. Is Watts? Oh, hey, Charlie. I know you too. Betsy Hill and Pam Bloom. Oh, thank you again. Thank you so much. And I'm going to tell the last story of the night. Oh, Bailey's writing another name, right? Wait, swiftly. Caroline Hamley. Oh, thank you, Caroline. Oh, thanks for listening. Thank you all for listening so much. Okay, the last one, miscommunication, is going to be our last one of the day. Hold up the sign's right there. Why is it so hard? There it is. If you want to give online, bit.ly/that. Just read it. It's so much easier. And then the phone number. And if you get, because Bailey's on the phone and stuff, just leave a message and she will call you back. Thank you so, so much. All right. The last story of the night is miscommunication. And I've had so many. Which one will I tell? I know which one I'm going to tell. I have wanted to tell the story at a Howl Story Slam so long, and I haven't. So here y'all are. So when I turned 40, I had to get a mammogram, right? That's what happened. And it's really no big deal. It's done in like 2 seconds. There's a moment where it's kind of like, yeah, but it was all over. And the technician says to me, so you still have very dense breasts, which is a good thing, except for the purposes of this exam, it makes it very difficult to read. So I'm going to need to give you a dense breast letter. And then she leaves the room. And I'm like, dense breast letter? And I just assume that she meant like an actual letter, presumably D for dense breast. And I couldn't quite figure out what I was supposed to do with my letter. It's like is this like a scarlet letter sort of thing? And I was standing alone in the room, and I was like, do I put it on my coat? And like, what if I change jackets? Or like, how does this? And then I was trying to think of anyone else that had a D, and like, what about F's for the flat-chested bitches out there? Like, why just D's? And I'm like going through this, and totally freaking out about my dense breast letter. When she comes back in and she hands me a piece of paper, and on it is written all the things that she told me. And I was like, oh, a dense breast letter. So might be old enough for a mammogram, but in my head, I am still a child. Okay, I think we're going to stop. Are we stopping now, Bailey? All right, that was our last story. Thank you all so much. I know somebody else just called, and I know that Bailey's feverishly, so thank you everyone who gave. And thank you also just for listening. These stories are really fun. There's still so many, and I'm sorry I didn't get to all the prompts. There's just not enough time. But thank you so much. Oh, Nancy Keat. Oh, thank you, Nancy. Hope you like the stories. Thank you so much. And there's a bunch of programs coming up at ACW. We're doing so many things online. We have an online writing class, personal essay with Annie Stolte of Adirondack Life magazine. And we're going to do every other week book recommendation Zooms. The next one is next Thursday, and it's mystery books. And so if you want new recommendations or give recommendations, we're going to do those every other week. And then we'll post the list so that, because I imagine everyone's reading a lot. Anyway, thank you all so much. This was a lot of fun. I'd be happy to do this again. Stay safe, stay healthy, and thanks. Love you. Bye.
What about the howl?